Okay, so item number 3 is postponed until a later meeting. Committee assignments.
I think everybody was happy with their assignments.
Right. I don't think that we need to do anything with that. If everybody's, these are all appointments, so if everybody's pleased with their assignment.
It says action item.
You have to prove it.
You have to approve it.
All right,
It's got
could I have a
names.
motion to approve the list of committee assignments for the following year?
And
Janet, and seconded by Sue. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, next up is the board meeting minutes of April 18th. Let's do those first. Are there any corrections or additions to the meeting minutes of April 18th? Could I have a motion to approve them? Margaret? Is there a second? Seconded by Carol. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? And are there any abstentions? Okay, that motion passes. And then we also have the minutes for the annual meeting of May 15th. Any corrections, any additions? Okay, motion to approve. By Christine. Is there a second? Seconded by Janet. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? I would just add that I think we all felt that it was delightful to be together again and that everything came off really,
it was nice.
really well.
It was.
The venue was good, the food was good, the speaker from State Education Department and State Library, she was wonderful. I had a great talk with her and she's really on board. And I've seen she's shown up in several other places since then and is very much an advocate for libraries. And just thank particularly Colleen, particularly Pamela and Sarah, of course, for Jack for putting on a really wonderful meeting.
I like Sarah's chant
Yes.
of free people
Right.
freely.
Yes.
Sarah's chant at the.
Oh, yes, yes. Sarah's presentation was great and will sort of leads into what we were talking about or we'll talk about. Okay, so both meetings minutes have been approved. Let's move on to the treasurer's report. Bob, what do you have to share with us?
We have 2 months since we didn't meet in our regular meeting in the month of May. So we'll start off with the April report. The beginning balance was $1,938,827. And we had receipts of $134,853, of which the receipts were all pretty much in normal routine, with the exception, we did have $15,551 in interest that we received from some of our CDs that matured at the Saratoga National Bank. So we had $134,853 that came in, and we spent $202,056.59, of which there, in your packets, there were 2 sets of warrants, one for the month of April, one for the month of May. That left us with a balance of $1,871,624 at the end of April, which obviously was the beginning balance for May. The month of May, we had just basically the normal monthly things, the joint automation fees and the reimbursements which come from the joint automation project. So we had 104,208. We did have one CD that matured in the month of, well, it matured yesterday, as a matter of fact, which we having that cash put into our money market because we were down to a little over 100,000 available. So our cash flow worked out just about perfect. So that one we're not rolling over. And the next 2 come due in the month of October, which we probably shouldn't have to roll those. It shouldn't, we will be able to roll those over as long as the state does their monies between now and then, which hopefully they will. So anyways, we had 104,208 that came in. We spent 339,000. So our balance at the end of May was $1,636,707. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be happy
Still
to.
quite healthy.
So are we waiting for the state aid to come through and how much will that be when it?
State aid, I don't have the number. Do you have the numbers there? I don't have it.
It would be in the budget. As income.
And
It's
I don't,
usually like $1.8 million,
let's see.
but some of it gets passed out to the member libraries as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's several categories. It's $1,292,715, but some of that's passed through. So that doesn't all, we can't spend all that in there.
Well, we spend it, but it's not into our coffers. It goes to.
It comes in one hand and then when we immediately send it out with the other hand.
That's all right. The libraries appreciate it.
Colleen, between now and the end of the meeting, could you give an estimate of what our income will be? It would be last year's numbers because,
This budget that you're looking at, these are last year's numbers. So I haven't updated it. Because the state has not posted it officially on their website. But if it's the same as last year, then these are the numbers. Is that what you mean?
flat funding.
Except the only thing that's not on here, and I haven't updated it because it hasn't happened yet, but the Love Your Library that we thought was a one-time thing, we are getting funding this year at $6,000, Jack, you said. So that'll be a budget amendment when it happens, but nothing has come through yet.
And that's another pass through. As soon as we get it, it goes to the library.
Colleen.
Actually, I thought Love Your Library isn't a pass-through. It's not a pass-through. We use it to support. Last year, we used it to support mostly summer reading activities, right?
Yes, that's what it has to be used for summer reading.
Yeah.
And it's us supporting libraries programming, or, well, I don't know what it's going to be this year. But
Colleen, based on last year's figure, approximately how much of the 1.3 million is going to be retained by SALS? Just approximately.
Well, the undesignated parts at the top stay with SALS. The designated parts, like the public library system automation, we turn that around and support JA. We use it to pay for the SALS portion of the JA fees. The central library aid gets passed through. LLSA gets passed through. So the things you see in the designated are pass-throughs. The jails, we buy materials for that. We don't, like for the jails, we don't pass it through. We buy magazine subscriptions for them. So the designated are things that get passed right through. The county youth gets passed right through. So does that help? The part on the top that's undesignated, that's money that SALS gets to support all of our activities.
Looking where it is, it's on this, if you look at the April and May, it's the second page where it's income.
Thanks, Colleen.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Bob? That's it. Okay. Let's go on to the director's report.
As we said earlier, first of all, it's really good to see everyone. Welcome to our after annual dinner things. The annual dinner went very, very well. I think it was a lovely setting, and I think it was very well received. Pamela sent out an evaluation, and for the most part, it was really good evaluations. We had one concern about the sound. People in the back couldn't hear as well.
I was sitting in the back and I could hear, so, yes.
You could or could not.
You could hear.
Well, we're aging and some people don't want to own it. That was a little joke we had where we talked about a demographic. I'm not joking about the people at the annual dinner. I was talking about me being a demographic, and I see myself everywhere. Just wanted to clear that up. But people enjoyed the food. They liked the venue. They didn't like the parking.
Right.
And the staff would like to thank you all for their recognition. Some of you met Bill Rozier. He's been here 25 years. David McFarland, 10 years, and I've been here 20 years. Seems like yesterday that Bob hired me. I'm that demographic again. I made a boo-boo. We inadvertently did not include Elaine as being elected for her second term. So we're gonna make good for that later. And I take all responsibility for that. And we can vote to appoint her, you following our bylaws. Members of the Building and Ground Committee did a walkthrough led by Bill Rozier before today's board meeting. And I think that we'll need to either move some money into the maintenance budget for the remaining of the year if we want to do it this year, or have it in next year's budget. You'll talk a little bit about what you saw.
Oh, I didn't take notes.
Well, the parking lot, there's some masonry.
In the door, the rusting.
The rusting of the doors and things of that nature. Okay, we just covered it. And what I'll do is we'll start going out and getting estimates to see how much all of these repairs will cost. I'm really, really excited to say that 12 libraries out of 34 want to be part of the Message from Survivors. That's the Holocaust program, thanks to a very generous grant given to us from Assembly Member Warner's office. We're starting to work. We're having an organizational meeting at the end of this month, which is next week. My gosh. And Jack started talking with some of the schools, and they're very, very excited because it's part of their curriculum as well. I think it's going to be a wonderful program. And with your permission, it will be our annual dinner speaker next May. It's a 2-year program. We're moving forward with a webinar. Oh, here's some information if you want to take a look at it. We've also been told that we will be the first group of libraries they've ever worked with. They usually only work with schools, and they really want this to be stellar so that they can replicate it in other places and other library systems. We're moving forward with a webinar, and the webinar will be, the cost of the webinar will be split between Crandall and SALS. The audience will be trustees, and guess what we're dealing with? Book challenges and bans. And our presenter is Jamie LaRue. Jamie had been previously the executive director of the Office of Intellectual Freedom. He's experienced all sorts of bans and challenges because he's currently a library director in Colorado. And he's very personable. He'll be answering questions, and he'll offer some ways for us to cope. We're going to need to schedule a meeting of the Personnel Committee and the Audit and Finance to develop our 2024 budget. The meeting will be scheduled in mid-August. Of course, everybody is welcome to come, but those are the two committees that usually meet and vote on it. I'm also happy to report Pamela, Colleen, and I met with our delivery courier, and we were able to address some of the communication issues that we've been experiencing. And as a result, the communications have improved 100-fold. And this means that we're better able to work with our members, because we do an evaluation of our services, and our libraries are very satisfied. And we wanted to keep our libraries satisfied with our current vendor. I'm starting to visit library boards and I love this. I love going to libraries. I love having a tour of the libraries. I love meeting the trustees on a more 1-to-1 or maybe 5-to-1 or 7-to-1. Or in your case, you have a big board. 13, how big is your board? You have a big board table filled with people.
Right,
Um,
12 at least, yeah.
to one, and this is really what I love best about my job. Jack Scott, Erica Freudenberger, and I met with the Rockwell Falls Public Library trustees. 3 out of 5 of them showed up. And we talked about what SALS does and the services that SALS provides. We talked about what it means to be a public library in New York State, that we follow laws and regulations and commissioners' regulations and all sorts of laws. We talked about the importance of policies and a strategic plan. The duties of a trustee, minimum standards and strategic planning. And after about an hour and a half of that, you could see everybody was exhausted. But we were able to hold it in this room. We had a light dinner. We had pizza and you're drinking the soda and iced tea from it. And I think it went very, very well. Jack, you want to say anything? You were part of it.
I think it was very productive.
Jack was very kind and Jack was here with me and Erica joined remotely and we had a conversation. And it's a work in progress. We're going to
And
continue
you
to
said
go on.
3 out of 5 trustees showed up. I'm curious to find out who didn't show up.
One of
The
the,
newest,
no, there was one new trustee and the other trustee elected was not there. So that was interesting. And I think it ended on a positive note. And trustees that wish to attend NYLA, please let Colleen know. NYLA is in Saratoga Springs again, and we'd like to take advantage of the early bird because we are cost conscious. I'll leave it at that. That's the end of my prepared report, but usually we have like a discussion. And if people want to bring up a topic right now, please feel free to do so. I know that some people have been attending some webinars.
Hello?
Yes. Go ahead.
Do it again.
And Linda Borden did send out an email because she was really, after the Library 2.0, she had so many thoughts. And she chose to share them with you, which I thought was a good thing. Go ahead, take it
Okay.
away.
My webinar was with Niche Academy, which was a nationwide webinar, and there were at least 500 attendees. And some of the things that I took, and the presenter was Shannon Altman from Niche Academy, and she was really, really good. And the thing that really surprised me was I was reading the chat, and in the chat, different libraries from everywhere in the country were making note that they were having issues in their library. Somebody had, they had either had, people show up at their meetings, and when they show up at their meetings, they're often loud, and they come in sort of ambushing you when they come to these meetings. There's a lot of angry yelling. They're misusing terminology. For instance, critical race theory is like the favorite on a lot of this. And critical race theory is something that is only taught in a college situation. It's certainly not taught in elementary school. And this is one of the topics that people raise when they come to your library board meeting. Another interesting term was astroturfing. Astroturfing in seems like the group that is presenting their objections seemingly grassroots, like Moms for Liberty. I mean, you take Moms for Liberty at its, think, oh, yes, moms, grassroots, and that's the kind of thing they want to project as they come, but they're really not grassroots organizations. They're very formal and very organized. And like Moms for Liberty, for instance. So again, they're working on deception. They're working on using terminology that doesn't matter. They're making stuff up almost as a point of contention. So that was my webinar. I thought it was really interesting, and I'm sure there's more.
One of the things,
Christine, go ahead.
one of the things in Waterford, it was much more benign, but we had a potential board member guest come to several meetings, and we didn't have an agenda with public comment with a designated, okay, you can talk for 5 minutes sort of thing. And we've since revised our policy to do that, which is one way to help control people invading board meetings.
I give them a 2 minute, give them 2 minutes to talk, and that, right, that's definitely a good way to at least, cool the atmosphere in your meeting, is to have the policy that they can only speak for a couple minutes.
It's also mentioned too that your meeting policy should contain, prohibitions against abusive language and that type of thing too. So that's very important.
Conduct, sure.
For conduct, and then, the people can, if they don't follow it, they can be asked to leave. But the important thing, and we talked about this a year ago, and I was also with Chris and with Margaret, I was also involved in this particular webinar. And it just reminded me that, like anything else, it's important to have your library should all have good written policies. And as we do here with SALS, constantly review your policy manual to make sure it's up to date and make whatever amendments you need to make. And then you also have to have, and Chris and I were talking about this, you also have to have an internal process for the staff. That when anybody questions anything, it doesn't necessarily have to be, wanting to have a book removed or anything like that. That it's noted that you have a very non-threatening response and that you talk about looking into it, and you have a procedure for doing that, and then you get back to the person. And it may very well be given our the value of wanting to have a variety of materials for all members of the community, because patrons vary in every community. And based on, freedom to be able to read what you want to read, particularly if you're an adult. That it may just be that you'll report back to the person that you've looked into it and it really hasn't violated any particular policies, and then just, again, very calmly saying that we serve all of the people in the community, and we have to have a variety of things, and this is what education is all about, and this is what intellectual inquiry is all about. Very, very difficult, as Margaret says. It can be, you were you're serving as the parliamentarian, Sarah, for the the library that was under fire. But that's basically, you just have to be prepared, and the staff has to know that they, just like, somebody who's, generally making a scene in the library or whatever with some other type of complaint, you just have to keep your cool, that's all. And respond and say you'll look into it, and then get back to them and actually look into it exactly. Yeah. Any other comments, Sarah? Did you want to add anything to that?
As I'm making my visits to libraries, and as you are people who live in the community. And I don't think any of you, and I'm a trustee at Albany Public Library, I don't think any of us anticipate this. we have to remember when all of this is going on, we are trustees of the institution. And as trustees, we need to be aware of the institution and make sure it has the money to be sustainable. We need to be advocates. And we also have a duty of obedience, where we're obedient to the institution. And if we have policies like collection development policies, we need to follow that, whether you agree or not with the books that are being challenged. It's not the book itself, but it's the First Amendment. And that's what we have to keep in mind. And there are plenty of books I won't read, but it doesn't mean they shouldn't be in the library.
Right.
And that's where I don't understand the discourse, where it's all or nothing, instead of understanding the library isn't telling you to read this book, but it's there for people to learn, to exercise their intellectual growth. And that's what makes me sad about all of this. We're not pushing any agenda, but we're having information so that people can make up their own minds. And as a parent, I was pretty careful about what I wanted. My responsibility was to make sure my children, it was my responsibility on what they wanted to read. And I would never tell another parent, you have to read the same titles as I'm allowing my child. And that's what bothers me also, that a handful of people are making a decision for the entire community. And that's democracy, that's access, that's intellectual freedom. And that's what scares me the most. End of lecture.
Well, and just two comments. One is library oriented, and the other, I guess, is more personal. The library oriented one is that we're talking about books, but all of what we've just been talking about applies to library policies for displays and for events that are held at the library. There may be, obviously the story hour was one that's happening all over the United States. And that's an event. And there's also, there's other materials, there's other displays that libraries do on particular themes. It may be about the environment or whatever, but, again, it's the same principle that you present a variety of things, and some will appeal to some people and some will appeal to other people. The personal one is just my feeling that some of the most vociferous parents and some of the people who, hear the wrong language and then they get worried too about particularly their children and whatnot. I don't know if they have any idea after 1 o'clock at night under the covers or whatever, what the kids are seeing on the internet. These books are very tame compared to what you can see or what you can do to your fellow classmates with the social media or whatever, that's much more dangerous than anything in the library. So
There is one library, I don't remember which state it was in, but they banned the Bible.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
because it fell under the guidelines.
right. And
Well,
there's that
there's a lot of
sexual
violence.
pornography in the Bible.
Yeah,
Well, and violence too, yeah, sure.
yeah.
And then he said that the person, and I wish I could remember who it was, what state it was. He said, well, that wasn't the meaning of the law.
Tennessee.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
Tennessee.
And would you take the cookies off? Because whenever I have to talk about things like this, you have to eat. Cookies.
Oh, look at that.
Pass them around, please.
Here, I'll.
Anyhow, any other comments
Not shy.
on this issue? Again, the thing, go back to your regions and also to your individual libraries and just make sure that your policies are up to date, that the staff understands that they don't, even if they feel it sometimes like they're being personally attacked, that they just have to keep their cool and be professional about it. So
Actually, I'm doing a program at NILA,
good.
continuing education program on just that, practicing. Because I don't know about you, but I don't like conflict and I don't like
No.
all of that. And
Well, at last year's NILA meeting, it was the First Amendment challengers Isn't that what they're called when they come in with a camera to your library?
Yeah.
Or any place. And there were two speakers. The first one did it the wrong way, which meant that she completely, the whole community was up in arms and everything was on Facebook, and her library was degraded in terms of the popular public's opinion. And then the other speaker seemed to have done it right. You know, the first one was like, no, you can't come in here and film. The second one was like, yes, come in, film whatever you want, as long as you have their permission to. And that went off much better. So again, it depends on how you challenge this. You know, if you keep your head about you and don't get upset and don't get, and keep your cool, it should end up better than, what happened in Lake Luzerne.
It's difficult because we're all human.
And I was going to ask her, I was just looking for an email. Did you send an email about Kirk Cameron?
Yes.
That
Yes.
people renting rooms and.
Or reserving rooms.
Yes, reserving rooms.
And I'm gonna share a story about that. The Seattle Public Library is allowing him, because it's following their procedures to allow him to do a story time. And I guess the Pride Parade organizers said to the Seattle Public Library, you can't march in our parade, and they had been marching. I might have gotten it wrong. I'm not sure if it was whatever the organization was, and they said no. But I think Seattle Public Library did the right thing. They had their policies and they followed them. And that's the important thing. You have your policies, you have your attorney vet them to make sure they're legal, and you follow them, and you have to follow them for all of your programs.
It's just so exhausting because you have to be ever vigilant. And as you mentioned before, the buzzwords are becoming quieter and quieter, so it's difficult to know exactly who is.
But the misinformation grows and grows and grows.
Well, and it's a similar thing to, I was a history major as an undergraduate, and there's a lot of, again, misinformation out there, but the important thing is whether you agree or disagree about a particular point, or better still, how to resolve a particular problem. You know, what's the priority? How much money do you want to spend? Are you for it or against it? That's all a matter of, personal choice. But don't ban certain things from even being discussed. And it's the same thing. Don't restrict the field of inquiry. Then what opinion you come away after you've had your discussion, that's a different story. I found in my life that sometimes I have my original opinion reinforced, other times I've modified it when I've heard somebody else talk about it. And that's from all over the political map, right, left, or whatever. Life is learning, and you just have to be open to new possibilities. And you can't do that if you can't discuss something in the first place.
Well, I personally, I wanted to know why these books are being banned. Like, you don't really hear the specifics, and there could be so many reasons, or it could be one tiny little reason. So I decided to try to start just reading banned books. Yeah, I just want to read them. Well,
They're great.
whether they were
They're
banned or
great.
not banned or whatever, but just to try to get what the uproar is all about. And I think one of the 2.0, the 3-hour lecture, Library 2.0, they had a little different speakers. One woman, I don't know if she was a trustee, but she worked in the library, and she was trying to figure out some program to do with this topic. And she raised money to buy books, to get the banned books, and she was gonna have a giveaway. It was an event at the library, and she was gonna give away, or just put all the book, they were all banned books, put them out, and have people come and just take whatever they wanted. And some people would come and make comments about a book, And then somebody else would just walk up and just like take it, like right while that person was complaining about it, but it was more just
I
like,
want it. Yeah,
let's just read the books and see what is it, because most of the time. It's like just one word taken out of context, or one story taken out of context, or a quote taken out of context, so.
Or it's about LGBTQ
Sure, it's-
issues.
Or it's
Or
written by,
slavery, or anything,
or
or
it's written by
critical race, or anything.
a BIPOC,
Right.
author.
Right, no, right, because
and-
they're writing about their own experiences, and they want to share it with other people who might have similar
Right.
experiences, and just because of who they are, it gets banned.
Mhm. I'm gonna make you all jealous. I'm gonna see Amanda Gorman.
Oh. You
And
are
Judy
jealous.
Blume.
I couldn't believe
wow.
that her poem
Yeah.
was banned in Florida. I won't say anything more about Florida. But I mean, to think that someone who presented at a presidential inauguration, a poem written, for that would be banned. That children are, and she put out a really lovely book with the poem for elementary school kids.
right.
And again, it's like, really?
The American Library Association, Judy Blume opens it,
Oh, yes,
and
good.
Amanda closes it. Amanda and I are on first name basis now. So,
Oh, Judy Blume's book is what, 30 years old now?
maybe older.
More than-
Yeah, 40 years old, 40, yeah. And, it was a real
It's older than
groundbreaker,
that.
but it's pretty
It's
tame
older
by
than that,
today's.
because I read it at 10.
Yeah,
I highly recommend either going to the movie or reading Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. I just reread it and it's wonderful. So what book are you reading now?
Well, I read Beloved. Because that was one of the top.
Fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was like one of the top banned books,
It's like,
like historically.
Huckleberry Finn man.
Well, most of Toni Morrison's books,
Yeah,
Most of Martin Martin's books.
But-
Yeah.
I think people just get on that bandwagon, like
Right.
that group, Moms for Liberty. It's just
My
like
book
a-
club is doing all banned books this year. Every month, somebody's choosing.
That's a good idea.
They've all been, other than Lolita, they've all been great books.
And some I've started to read. And usually when I start to read a book, even if I don't really like it, I feel like I gotta finish it. But some of them I'll read it and I'll be like, well, this is a great author. She's just great. And I'll read it to the end and it was a great book. Others I just don't get into, but not just because of the topic, but just because I didn't really like the book. So I didn't read it, but it's like, it's the big deal. Like, it's such a big deal. to
If somebody
everybody.
else loves it, then.
Yeah, if you like it, yeah, it's just like any other book. You maybe don't like a romance. You start reading it, you're like, ew, I hate this, and we're gonna read this. It's like, I don't know.
And
I can't
just
believe how
to,
bad it is.
Dolly joined us.
Oh. Dolly Parton.
And, I mean, she's done so much for literacy and access. And she's from Tennessee, so there's hope.
Yeah.
Thank you for this discussion. I wish we didn't have to have it.
It's a
but
sad
thank
one,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
okay, let's move along. Committee reports. Janet, anything from audit and finance other than you have a meeting coming up in August?
I think that's it.
Okay. Chris?
We have kind of already reviewed the fact that the building committee took a walk through today and
Is that what this is?
yes.
Okay. And bylaws? Mr.
Nothing
Horst,
at this time. Yes, nothing at this time.
welcome from the North Country.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Margaret, at Central Library, anything?
No report.
Okay. And any of the county aid coordinators have anything to report? Okay, Carol, Library Services?
No.
Okay. Personnel, Janet,
We'll be meeting in August.
meeting in August also. And trustee nominating, Jordan.
Not at this time again.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there any unfinished business? I don't think there is. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. We need to reappoint Elaine Cowan as a member of the board. It was an omission at the, apologize, Elaine.
No
I'll
problem.
make that
And the-
motion.
All right. Margaret, is there a second? Seconded by Sue. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we generally revolve from one year to the next for those new board members. Our meeting, we have one down south and we have one further up north. And in the past, we've done Fort William Henry and Lake George. And that would be for next year's dinner. So could I have a motion to approve the non-refundable? The major problem with this is the non-refundable deposit. But we're hoping that there's no major national emergency so that
Yes.
we can meet. It's a very pleasant place to meet. And for once, those of us in Saratoga, Washington have to travel a little further than the people from up north, so. Okay, is there a motion to approve that non-refundable deposit for next year's annual meeting? Janet, and seconded by Sue. Any discussion? All those in favor?
There's parking.
Yeah. Plenty.
Oh, there's plenty of parking there.
Oh, there's a ton of parking, yeah. Particularly in May, it's a little before the Americade, so it's
Ah,
or the, yeah. Okay, the motion carries, thank you. Now, budget amendments, you want to talk about those, either Janet or Robert, one or the other?
Actually, Colleen, I think.
Colleen.
Colleen,
Since she wrote the narratives.
I've been tagged.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't know, I'll walk through the narrative, I guess, just overall, and then I don't know if you all will vote on each one. In this case, a lot of the income amendments are directly tied to the expenditures of that money, so I'll just go over the narrative. Is that okay? Can you guys hear me? I don't know. No one's answering.
Maybe she can't hear us.
We hear
We
you.
can hear
Can-
you.
You can, okay, okay. So on the income side, the amendments that are being considered are, we received $17,000 of federal aid. That was ARPA funding that was paid to SALS by Capital District Library Council. So it came to us through CDLC. It wasn't budgeted because we didn't know we were going to receive it. So that's one amendment. Saratoga County Youth, it's an increase by $341 to reflect the actual grant that we received this year, which is $1,500. So that's just correcting it to the actual that we know now. General reserves, there are a few things here. Ultimately, it would be an increase of $84,898.54. And below you have the explanations of what that is. So 11,936 was 2022 funding we received at the end of the year. It was grant and aid from Assemblyman Simpson, but we had already received some funding from our libraries, making up the difference of the Saratoga County grant that didn't end up coming through at the full amount. So there was not time for Jill Ryder to purchase all of these materials at the end of the year. So that's the balance that we didn't spend, but we'd like to, it was allocated for overdrive from Assemblyman Simpson. So we're looking to increase that portion of general reserves that we will use for overdrive. 813 is the balance from New York State Love Your Library grant. We didn't expend it, and we're looking to take that, to designate that out of the general reserves and spend it on the expenditure side. The 71,209.54 is the total of the Meraki equipment that we purchased. SALS purchased the equipment and is applying for a New York State Coordinated Broadband Project construction grant with New York State And if it's funded, we will be receiving 50% from the construction grant, which will shore up 50% of the expenses, but we had to outlay the full expense right now. $900 in software because we're over budget on software. We ended up, we have SurveyMonkey that we're using, and we have 2 Zoom licenses now. Is that right, Jack? Yeah, so our budget is, we spent a little bit more on software. I'll budget for it accordingly next year now that we know that's the route we're taking. And then the other adjustment is just facilities challenge. Instead of paying out $50,000, we paid out $50,001. So I'm taking that extra dollar from the general reserves. And the county youth, I budgeted, my expenditure and income didn't match. So that's just adjusting the general reserve so that both sides of the income and expenses match. And finally, other grant funds is increased by $59,500 because we received the Oates grant of $56,000 and the Kettering grant of $3,500. The Kettering grant was a multi-year project. We received part of it in 2021. It's work that Erica did for them, and we've submitted a bill to them to get our final $3,500. So that's on the income side for a total increase of $161,739.54. And then on the expenditure side, what needs to be adjusted is equipment. So we need to increase that line by the $71,209.54 that we spent on Meraki equipment towards the grant. We need to increase books, which we put our e-content and physical books there. So we need to increase that by $17,936. That's the overdrive funds that we have from last year. And then this is the first time you're seeing ARPA here. So we received $17,000 from ARPA, and that money is split up here based on where outreach, Jack and Erica are looking to spend the ARPA money this year. So this is the first time you're seeing a piece of that ARPA. They're planning to buy $6,000 of overdrive e-content in particular areas to be supported. Jump in if I forget anything, Jack. Microsoftware, we said Microsoftware, we need to increase that by 900 to reflect our actual expenditures. Supplies, this 2,000 is a budgeted item from outreach spending that they're looking to get some supplies to do outreach with, Jack and Erica. Publicity and printing, again, 1,500, piece of that ARPA funding. We'll be doing some marketing. Insurance, we're using $4,000 from the ARPA funding for the technology errors and omissions policy that we got. And this reflects the reimbursement we got from the JA portion. So JA pays for 40%, SALS pays for 60%. The budget just needs 4,000 more to cover that because I had already budgeted a little padding there. Saratoga County grant, Saratoga County Youth Bureau grant, again, just to match what we really are getting from them. Love Your Library. These are the funds that we didn't end up spending last year from 2022 and would like to expend them this year. Technology grant, that's going up because a portion of the Oates grant was to purchase equipment, which was $32,000. And then the Kettering Foundation, we're budgeting that spending coming from this line. There's planning of maybe a telehealth program starting. And so that would be equipment based. So we're going to put that Kettering Foundation expenditure piece here. Facilities upgrade, again, just increase it by $1 so that we are not in the negative over in the variance because we actually gave out $50,001. And then continuing ed, we're increasing that by $27,500. The balance of the Oates grant after technology was for stipends for libraries. So that was under continuing education. And then the balance here is the final ARPA money that will be used to do more CE for member libraries. So the total increase here is exactly the same as above, so that both sides balance $161,739.54. So that's the narrative. Happily, there's a lot going on, but some of it is because we had ARPA oats and Kettering. So those are wonderful things that we had got all that extra revenue in. Does anyone
Yeah.
have any questions for me or Bob or Janet?
Are there any questions for Colleen on any of the individual items? Okay, I would suggest and accept a motion to amend the 2023 budget as recommended. As a mid-year correction. Christine is made the motion and Carol is seconding. Is there any further discussion, questions, comments? Thanks for your work on this, Colleen. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. All right, moving on to the second page. Okay, the user account policy. Who's going to speak to that?
During the JA meeting, we thought a policy would be necessary just to put into practice what we're doing, because you need to have strong policies. I did not print out the policy.
We have a link.
Yeah.
Okay. It was approved during the JA meeting. I think it's been approved by the board of Mohawk Valley, and we need to approve it because JA isn't a organization that can set policy.
Margaret, do you want to briefly, I don't have it on my computer, so could you briefly, oh, there it is. Oops, I can't see it, but.
I could read some of it if you like.
Well, just
It's just
the
telling you
highlights.
about users should never, under any circumstances, share usernames and passwords,
Oh, okay.
things
All
like
right.
that. And the passwords will expire in a year. Their account expires. Phishing trainings,
Oh, so it's just guidelines for proper
and
use.
disable access to people who have left or retired. So just.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All right, who would like to move this? Margaret, and is there a second? Seconded by Sue. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. All right. We also have,
Russ, I'm sorry. Poor Jordan is over there on his computer waving his hand for all of these. Don't forget he's participating today.
Jordan, go ahead.
I think he's just voting. He's
just
just voting.
Oh, I don't think you
No,
can
I
vote
was,
virtually.
Yes,
but-
he can,
Oh, you can?
as long as we have a quorum in person.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Jordan.
that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Sarah has asked for approval to attend a following group of board meetings for ALA. All right, let's do that separately. Any questions? All those in, motion from Elaine, seconded by Janet. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. And we have approval for Colleen to attend the finance camp in Bolton Landing in October. She liked it so much, she's going back for another one. Okay, Carol moves, Sue seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. And finally, the SALS staff to attend the NILA conference in November. Is that here in Saratoga again? Okay. Just so while you're there to save a couple of watts of electricity, Pamela, I'd like to attend that too, so. Because Sarah asked earlier if we would just let you know. All right, all those in favor of the, oh, wait, we need a motion, excuse me. Laura, okay, is there a second? Seconded by Margaret. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that carries as well.
So they're supposed to let Colleen,
Pardon?
let Colleen know nothing.
Oh, Colleen, no, all right.
That's okay. Pamela and I are like so close. We're like one person. So if you tell me, I tell her. If you tell her, she tells me, it's okay. Either one of us is fine. I'm just gonna pay for it, but just let us know and we'll get you registered.
I think the owl stopped working. I'm coming in.
Uh-oh. Owls, acting up.
We lost her.
I think it's back.
Okay,
It's back. Okay.
It's back, we're here.
You started into submission.
All right. As far as announcements, I just have one. Tomorrow afternoon, I and Ed Roger, the trustee, we just gave the award to past president of the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. And Alex Catilius, our library director, Clifton Park Half Moon. We will be going to Coburg Village, which is a retirement community, and presenting the legislative award for the late Arnie Elman, who was a former president both here and in Clifton Park, to his widow, Toby Elman. And you all wanted to know about that. I've already mentioned it to Sarah, so we finally got a date where everybody could meet, so we'll be doing that tomorrow afternoon. So I thought you'd like to know that. We sure should be delighted to get it. Any other announcements? Okay.
Actually, just a comment. So, several weeks ago, Ed Rogers was, I believe, one of the organizers of a conference that was held in Lake George or in Clifton Park that was called Here Come the Boomers. And it was, people from the New York State Office for the Aging. Speaking of your demographic, New York State Office of the Aging,
Yeah.
Captain, there was some elder law attorney representation. And it really struck me as though this is sort of very rich opportunities for programming in all of our libraries.
I forgot to pass this. Oh, no.
So we got a large enough population and their children who are now grown in their 40s and 50s. There's an interested audience. Way back when it was just starting to shift from focus on nursing homes to other things like in-home and assisted living and whatnot. I just happened, that was one of my many assignments over the years. I had the Office of the Aging. I was the budget examiner for them. It was one of my few victories in state government. I proposed, because they have a very small budget, I proposed an extra $1 million for the home aid program. It already was running. And it actually went through all the levels of government and it was passed by the legislature. But the important thing was getting it through, the budget director and the governor and all the rest of that. So I didn't have many successors in state government, but that was one. So obviously now with the demographic, I don't know what's going to happen in another 20 years when all of us that are the bulge and the python are gone. But okay, any other announcements? Any other comments? Under the new rules, I don't think we don't need a vote to adjourn. Okay, well then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful summer.
You too.